Monster Menagerie Revisited has a little bit of everything. You've got fiends and fae, there's undead and beasts and celestials, you got spelljammer monsters, there's dragons, plus there's some of the more common monsters that you might find like goblins and ogres and gnolls. The only thing this set really doesn't have are PC and NPC minis. If you are a GM looking to create some interesting encounters with monsters that are mostly out of the ordinary, this set is going to be of interest to you. These aren't generally based on the art of the new Monster Manual, but I'll be using those stat blocks where I can so that you can have the most up-to-date information for running them at your table when you get them. Lots of the minis here are from Monsters of the Multiverse, but we also have ones from other books like Vecna Eve of Ruin and Spelljammer and Rime of the Frost Maiden, so this is really a huge grab bag of monsters here. But before we get started, I want you to stay tuned to the end of the video to see if you won the giveaway from our Monster Menagerie Revisited unboxing video. And if you want to help me keep making videos like this, you can kindly think about supporting my longtime sponsor, Hit Point Press. They have their witchy summer sale going on right now, which focuses a lot on their animated cards and their Fable Maker series. If you use my links down below, you can get yourself something nice, and it goes a long way in keeping me going. And they do make great gifts as well. Also, remember that if you pick up their animated Spellcraft Volume 1 deck, which is here, you can visit gallantgoblin.com/spellcraft to get free custom spells by us to use with these cards. If you have picked up something from Hit Point, really, I appreciate it, and let me know down below. I'd love to hear about it. So with thanks to WizKids for sending these my way to review, let's check out Monster Menagerie Revisited. Enhance and improve your 5e games today with Hit Point Press. Explore the whimsical dark carnival setting of Hecna. Will you see through the glitzy charade or fall prey to Hecna's everlasting torment? Or enhance your 5e games with animated spell, condition, and townsfolk cards. Add a slew of creative and gorgeously illustrated magical items with the Griffin Saddlebag. And meet 25 fully realized villains or become the big bad yourself. Big Bad's Most Wanted is on Kickstarter. Learn more today at Hit Point Press by using our link in the corner or down below. Meenlocks are small, malicious fae born from concentrated fear, with crab-like claws, warped bodies, and an instinct to corrupt places of safety into shadowed warrens. In combat, they work best as ambushers rather than frontline bruisers. Their fear aura pressures characters who close in, their claws can paralyze, and shadow teleport lets them vanish through dim light or darkness to isolate vulnerable targets. They are especially effective in cramped, dark environments where they can strike, disappear, and reappear behind the party. For story use, Meenlocks are excellent signs of terror, haunting a frightened village, stalking an asylum, or slowly transforming a beloved kidnapped NPC into one of their own. Bulezaus are diseased bestial demons that embody animalistic rage. You can think of them as Black Friday shoppers. They make combat more dangerous simply by being near the party. Rotting Presence punishes any non-demon that starts his turn within 30 feet, while the Barbed Tail can poison, spread disease, and reduce a target's hit point maximum over time. Their speed, long jumps, and resistance make them useful as shock troops that crash into the back lines rather than holding a front. In a campaign, a Bulezau works well as a sign that a battlefield or a canyon, cult site, or demon lord's warband has become physically corrupted by abyssal rot. Maw Demons are ravenous lesser demons driven by endless hunger. Just picture me at a Japanese barbecue. They're often found alongside Gnoll warbands devoted to Yenogu. They are simple but effective in combat, tough enough to threaten low-level characters, nasty in groups, and thematically perfect for battles where the enemy is in a feeding frenzy. Their bite is straightforward, but Disgorge gives them a memorable area attack that can knock characters prone and punish clustered parties. They work well as living evidence of demonic corruption and feeding frenzies, appearing after massacres, crawling out of ritual pits, or accompanying gnolls who cannot truly control them, only point them toward prey. Make these encounters fast and brutal. Quasits are tiny demon pests that rely on stealth, sabotage, and quick violence rather than brute force. Their combat role is slippery and disruptive. They can turn invisible, assume harmless animal forms, and use scare to unsettle a vulnerable character before darting in with a poisoned wren. This 2025 version is notably sturdier than the 2014 Quasit, jumping from 7 hit points to 25, making it much more likely to survive long enough to use its tricks. Its poison is also simpler, lasting only until the start of the Quasit's next turn. In a campaign, Quasits make excellent familiars, spies, cult mascots, or signs that a petty mortal villain has attracted demonic attention. Rutterkins are warped mob-forming demons that roam the abyss in search of victims to surround, terrify, and consume. They are most interesting when used in numbers, which is good because they are a common here. Their immobilizing fear becomes far more dangerous around a crowd of Rutterkins, potentially frightening and restraining creatures before the demons close in. Their bite adds another layer of threat by poisoning targets, and if a victim dies while poisoned, transforming them into a mains. That isn't likely to happen to your PCs, but that's what helpless NPCs are for. All that makes them useful for encounters where the party must stop an infection-like demonic spread, rescue captives before they are overwhelmed, or survive a panicked battlefield where fallen creatures may become part of the abyssal horde. A Dragon Cultist is a mortal fanatic who has given ordinary life over to draconic worship, prophecy, and the promise of power through fear. A black mask like this one here can signal devotion to black dragons in particular, suggesting themes of acid or decay, cruelty, ruins, and swamp-bound corruption. In combat, the cultist remains pretty fragile, but his ritual sickle gives this even low CR enemy a sinister magical edge, making groups of cultists feel more ceremonial than simple thugs. The 2024 version leans into that ritual identity more clearly than the older scimitar-using cultist. And in a campaign, Dragon Cultists work well as spies or kidnappers, shrine guards, or early warnings of a larger draconic plot. Dragon Cultist is also now a character background in Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerun if you're looking to play a reformed baddie. Giant venomous snakes in D&D and in real life are fast, perceptive predators suited to jungles, swamps, ruins, deserts, and other places where a sudden strike can frighten the hell out of your players. In combat, they are useful low-level threats because their 10-foot reach lets them bite from behind cover, over difficult terrain, or from the edge of water before slipping away. The 2024 version is a bit faster than the 2014 counterpart, and its poison has been simplified into flat extra damage rather than a separate constitution save, making it quicker to run at your table. In a campaign, these snakes work well as temple guardians, druidic companions, natural hazards, or signs that a wilderness is becoming a little bit more corrupted. Zombies are, of course, reanimated corpses that keep moving through damage that would stop a living foe. This many in particular works well as a fallen guard, cult sacrifice, or a dead adventurer. In combat, zombies are simple but effective attrition monsters. Low AC makes them easy to hit, while undead fortitude can keep them standing at tense moments unless the party uses radiant damage or lands a critical hit. The 2024 version has fewer hit points than the 2014 zombie, but a slightly stronger slam. In a campaign, well, I think you probably know how to use zombies in a campaign, but I'll tease here that I am working on a new one-shot that might make good use of this mini. A Swarm of Rot Grubs is a crawling mass of finger-sized maggots that infest corpses, carrion, and anyone unlucky enough to disturb them. They make combat tense because their threat is not so much raw damage alone, but the sense that something has gotten inside a victim and must be dealt with quickly. It's body horror. These bites can poison a creature, deal ongoing damage, and kill a target that ends its turn at 0 hit points while poisoned, while their fire vulnerability gives a party a countermeasure. In a campaign, Rot Grubs work well in corpse-choked battlefields, swamp ruins, underdark tunnels, abandoned hospitals, or in necromancer lairs. A Snow Golem is a magically reanimated mass of packed snow, durable against ordinary weapons, but vulnerable to, you guessed it, heat and flame. And it's pretty adorable to boot. In combat, it creates an unusual puzzle for the party. Non-magical weapon damage is useless, cold damage heals it, and extreme heat slowly melts it down. Its slow speed makes positioning important, but its 3 attacks and ranged snowball let it remain threatening even when characters try to keep their distance. It's from Rime of the Frostmaiden, obviously, but it works especially well in frozen ruins, wizard towers, cursed winter roads, or as a guardian left behind by a frost mage or a hag or a frost giant caster. Or, if you're playing in a Frozen-inspired one-shot, this can be Olaf's meth-addicted half-brother Bjorn. Let me know if you want to read my Frozen fanfic. Grungs are frog-like amphibious humanoids whose skin and weapons carry poison, and different colors of grung add different secondary effects when that poison takes hold. A green grung's poison limits movement, preventing a poison creature from moving except by climbing and making standing jumps, which can leave characters stranded, separated, or trapped. In combat, green grungs work especially well in vertical environments with branches and ruins, vines, pools, or mud, where their climbing speed and their standing leap will matter. For story use, a green grung might serve as a hunter, a guard, a scout, a bandit, or a territorial defender. Its color reflects its role within the social and magical ecology of grung communities. Jackalweres are deceptive fiends that can shift form between ordinary jackals, humans, or jackal-humanoid hybrids, using disguise and misdirection before turning on travelers. They are not true lycanthropes, which makes them useful for misleading parties who assume that they are dealing with were creatures, but in combat, pack tactics rewards them for attacking in groups, while sleep gaze lets them disable a target long enough to steal supplies or set up an ambush or just drag somebody away. The 2024 version is now a fiend rather than a humanoid. It loses its old non-magical weapon immunity and gains an improved multi-attack. In the campaign, Jackalweres work well as desert tricksters, false guides, or servants of darker powers. And here we get our jackal form. Jackals are small desert and grassland scavengers that work well as very low threat creatures. They have a CR of 0, or maybe they're just environmental flavor or companions to more dangerous monsters. On their own, they're pretty fragile, but their speed, stealth, perception, and dark vision makes them useful as scouts, alarm animals, or creatures that harry weakened travelers. Since both of these are common minis, it's easy to build up a pack. The 2024 Jackal no longer has pack tactics, so the Jackalwere becomes the real tactical threat here. And in a campaign, Jackals can also be used to foreshadow deception, or as scavengers, or just as some mild dangers in the wild. Gnoll Witherlings are undead gnolls created when warbands preserve the bones of slain kin and call on Yenogu's power to send them back into the battle. They are good low-level undead because they still feel like gnolls, just a little bit scarier. They're fast, vicious, and dangerous when fighting beside living packmates. In combat, multi-attack gives them steady pressure, rampage lets them surge forward after dropping a foe, and vengeful strike punishes the party for killing nearby gnolls. That reaction makes them especially useful in mixed encounters with ordinary gnolls, Maw Demons, or cultists of Yenogu. In a campaign, Witherlings can show how completely a gnoll warband has surrendered to demonic hunger. This is our first uncommon mini in the set, representing an Azer warrior charged with defending its community's smiths and sacred forges. Azers are living bronze folk tied to elemental fire, and the Sentinel stat block makes that heat a factor in the combat. Its fire aura punishes nearby creatures at the end of its turns, while its burning hammer combines pretty solid weapon damage with extra fire damage. This makes the Sentinel effective as a frontline guardian in a tight forge room, a volcanic tunnel, or a planar stronghold where enemies will have to risk getting in close. In a campaign, an Azer Sentinel can serve as a loyal defender, a reluctant ally, an enslaved forge worker, or a guardian of a magical weapon. Neogi are spider-like aberrations with eel-like heads, alien minds, and a society built around domination. They consider control natural, which makes them especially unsettling villains. They do not simply capture victims. They expect hierarchy and obedience and ownership. In combat, a Neogi combines poison, multiple attacks, spider climb, and its enslavability, allowing it to fight from walls or ceilings, while turning a vulnerable character into a temporary servant. Their role expands even further when paired with enslaved monsters, especially Umber Hulks. In a campaign, Neogi work well as Underdark slavers, planar raiders, or masterminds behind a strange cult. For a really fun Neogi adventure, you can check out mine called I Am Your World on DM's Guild, where it's now a gold bestseller, as you can tell from the bling on the Neogi here. And yes, I still need to update the cover for the new gold medal. Staying in wild space here, Space Eels are small scavengers that avoid larger creatures unless they're hungry, trailing spell-jamming ships and feeding on the barnacles that cling to their hulls. In combat, they are more dangerous than their size suggests because their bite lets them attach to a target and automatically deal damage each round until removed. Their tail spine adds a second threat, poisoning and paralyzing a target on a failed save, which can make even a small swarm of eels feel pretty hazardous when around an open deck and rigging. In a campaign, probably a Spelljammer campaign, Space Eels work well as shipboard pests, threats in an abandoned vessel, or as scavengers coming through a portal from a faraway place. Hellhounds are infernal hunting beasts spawned from the lower planes and prized by devils, giants, cultists, and other cruel masters. They are intelligent enough to understand commands and tactics, and vicious enough to turn on anyone who tries to give them chin scritches. In combat, pack tactics makes them especially dangerous in pairs or in packs, while their fire breath gives them a strong opening attack against clustered characters. The 2024 version is notably tougher than the 2014 Hellhound, with more hit points and a new multi-attack that lets it make 2 bite attacks. In combat, Hellhounds work well as trackers, execution beasts, fortress guardians, or as pets for fire giants and devils. Narzugons are fallen paladins and hell knights who carry a warped sense of honor into eternal service to the archdukes of the Nine Hells. They make excellent elite commanders because they are not just durable melee threats, they also control the battlefield through their infernal command and terrifying command abilities, forcing allies forward while threatening and frightening enemies. Their Hellfire Lance is especially brutal, as creatures it kills can have their souls dragged to the river Styx, where they are reborn as lemures. The infernal tack that binds each Narzugon with its Nightmare mount also makes them ideal mounted villains, and we did get a modular Narzugon and Nightmare back in the Descent into Avernus set. In a campaign, a Narzugon can serve as a fiendish general, a fallen knight, or an enforcer collecting on an infernal bargain. Drow Mages of Lolth are elite Underdark spellcasters who combine arcane training with their devotion to the Demon Queen of Spiders. They did a good job of making this one feel very Lolth themed, with flight, stealth, Fey ancestry, sunlight sensitivity, and a streamlined combat kit built around Abyssal Burst, which is a poison, melee, and ranged attack. In combat, 3 Abyssal Burst attacks let the mage deliver pretty reliable poison damage at range, while Fairy Fire, Misty Step, and a demon-only summon fiend give it a strong mobility and battlefield support. In a campaign, a Drow Mage of Lolth works well as a shrine defender, a noble-housed anarchist, a demonic ritualist, or a manipulator behind Underdark raids. Have you noticed that the minis are coming in these little sets? Yochlols are shape-shifting demons most often associated with Lolth, appearing as dripping masses, spiders, or zealous cultists trying to manipulate enemies and spread demonic influence. They make strong spellcasters because they combine social menace with some hard-hitting power. Detect thoughts and dominate person give you intrigue. Web controls the battlefield, and Caustic Lash lets you threaten characters at reach. The 2024 version is especially slippery, with Shapeshift as a bonus action and Toxic Escape as a reaction that halves incoming damage, teleports the Yochlol away, and can leave the attacker poisoned and incapacitated. In a campaign, a Yochlol works well as a cult leader, one of Lolth's emissaries, or as a treacherous advisor. Maurezhi are ghoul-like demons created by Dorazane, the king of ghouls, to lead packs of ghouls and gas on the material plane. They are unsettling little punch-bellied infiltrators. After consuming a slain humanoid, a Maurezhi can assume that character's appearance for days, though that disguise will slowly decay away. In combat, its bite drains charisma and can eventually transform a victim into a ghoul, while its claws can paralyze targets long enough for undead allies to swarm them. Raise Ghoul also lets it turn a fallen ghoul or a ghast back into an active threat, and you can use a Maurezhi as a slowly rotting imposter, an undead commander, or the hidden source of a ghoul outbreak. The Goblin Berserker uses the Berserker stat block to represent a much more dangerous goblin than the usual skirmisher. A reckless pit fighter, a tribal champion, or a frenzied raider, swinging a weapon bigger than most goblins would probably carry. This mini's Great Axe fits the stat block perfectly, so the main adjustments are going to be flavor-based. Make the Berserker small, add Goblin as a language if you want to, and describe its fury through Goblin bravado rather than the traditional barbarian toughness and bloodlust. In combat, Bloodied Frenzy makes it a more dangerous threat once it's injured, rewarding a dramatic mid-fight surge. Satyrs are Fey revelers who embody wild freedom and music, mischief, and the untamed joy of the wilderness. In combat, they are quick and slippery rather than heavily armored, using magic resistance to shrug off spells and their 40-foot speed to stay mobile. They need something to compensate them for the difficulty that they have finding good shoes. The 2024 version shifts the Satyr away from conventional weapon attacks and toward a more distinctly Fey combat style. Hooves can shove a target back, while Mockery lets the Satyr deal psychic damage at range with a taunt or a cutting remark. In a campaign, Satyrs work well as Feywild guides, chaotic party hosts, territorial forest defenders, or playful troublemakers whose games can become sometimes dangerous. We're in the Fae section of our set here. Dryads are woodland Fae bound to trees, groves, and other living sanctuaries, protecting them through charm and misdirection. In combat, this 2024 version is much more active than the classic Dryad. Vine Lash and Thorn Burst give it reliable melee and ranged attacks, while Tree Stride as a bonus action lets it slip between large trees and constantly reposition. Its spellcasting gives it a Guardian role with Charm Monster, Entangle, Pass Without a Trace, and Druidcraft supporting ambushes and non-violent encounters. In a campaign, a Dryad can be a protector, a forest quest giver, a suspicious warden of a cursed grove, or the living key to a hidden Fae sanctuary. Where satyrs embody the restless revelry of the wild, Dryads are more rooted and protective, tied to specific trees or groves or natural sanctuaries. Bullywugs are frog-like swamp humanoids known for their often exaggerated sense of status, but Bullywug Knights are rare examples who channeled that pride into a genuine code of chivalry. This knight is built as a straightforward armored defender with plate armor and a glaive. In combat, its 10-foot reach and multi-attack let it hold a line, while standing leap and a swim speed make it more mobile than a typical armored warrior. Croak of Charming adds a little Fae-style shenanigan, briefly swaying an enemy instead of simply cutting them down. In a campaign, it could be a swamp champion, a formal duelist, or a strange but sincere ally. Griffins are iconic aerial predators that combine the body of a lion with the head, wings, and talons of a great bird of prey. These two minis give you a little variety. One evokes a golden eagle, while the other is based on a bald eagle. Griffins are often associated with royalty, mounted Ares, and ancient legends, and they can feel either majestic or terrifying depending on the encounter. In combat, they are fast, direct threats that use flight to choose their targets, swoop past terrain, and grapple medium or smaller creatures in their claws. That grapple can make them especially dangerous near cliffs, towers, bridges, or open skies, where being carried away becomes part of the threat of the combat. They are also useful as mounts, but only for characters or NPCs capable of earning their trust. In a campaign, griffins work well as royal symbols, mountain guardians, dangerous steeds, sacred beasts, or legendary predators tied to old tales and noble bloodlines. Gorgons are iron-plated bull constructs that thunder through ancient ruins, leaving petrified victims shattered across the hunting grounds. Don't get them confused with Medusas, though. They don't like it when you do that. In combat, they are straightforward, but pretty scary. Gore hits pretty hard, trample punishes nearby enemies, and petrifying breath can restrain targets before turning them into stone on a second failed save. The 2024 version shifts them from monstrosity to construct, tying the Gorgon more directly to its artificial, forged nature. Its body is not merely armored, but built, with enscrolled iron plates and alchemical breath and a bestial shape hammered into service by magic users who wanted an obedient guardian. In a campaign, a Gorgon can guard a forgotten vault, obey an obscure command key, or outlive the dead civilization that made it. Eaters of Knowledge are brutal psionic aberrations created by followers of Ilsisane, the Mind Flayer god brain, to harvest secrets by devouring brains. Unlike Illithids, they are not subtle masterminds. They are hulking collectors of information that become more dangerous as they consume more minds. In combat, they can grapple or stun a large or smaller target, and then use Extract Brain against an incapacitated humanoid for devastating damage. Their Brains Devoured trait fuels psionic spellcasting, including options like Detect Magic, Telekinesis, and Greater Invisibility. That also explains the ultra-rare Invisible variant, representing an Eater of Knowledge using its psionics to vanish before striking. In a campaign, it works well as a planar Enforcer, Mind Flayer Experiment, or terrifying Guardian of Stolen Lore. Equinal Guardinals are horse-like celestials from Elysium, embodying strength and courage and a boisterous sense of righteous competition. Like other Guardinals, they are animalistic champions of good, usually peaceful until cruelty or injustice demands action. Equinals are described as especially strong among the Guardinals. They are not distant, angelic figures, but hardy, physical protectors who might challenge heroes to contests of strength before offering aid. In combat, the Equinal is a powerful brawler. Headfirst Charge lets it smash enemies prone after a straight-line rush, while fist attacks, thrown rocks, and a stunning shout give it options at different ranges. That mix makes it useful in open battlefields, planar roads, arenas, or heroic last stands where movement and momentum will matter. Its radiant resistance and immunity to being charmed or frightened give it a role as a steadfast celestial defender. In a campaign, an Equinal can serve as a planar ally, a guardian of a sacred road, a contest champion, or a heroic protector from the Beastlands or from Elysium. Yeth Hounds are spectral fae hunting beasts granted by powerful archfae to favored servants, often evil vampires, necromancers, hags, Comcast customer support agents, or other sinister masters. They're like nightmare hunting dogs, racing through the night with smoky bodies, human-like faces, which are really creepy, and a baying cry that drives prey into panic. In combat, baleful baying is their primary ability, frightening enemies across a wide area and forcing frightened targets to flee, while their bite deals extra psychic damage to terrified victims. Their flight, resistance to non-magical weapons that are not silvered, and connection to the border ethereal make them difficult to pin down. In a campaign, Yeth Hounds work well as nocturnal pursuers, fey consequences, or signs that an unseen master has marked the party for the hunt. Ogre Chain Brutes are specialized ogres trained and equipped for war, replacing the usual club routine with a big ol' spiked chain. Ogres may be the most common monster type that still feels underrepresented in miniature form, so this kind of variant is especially useful for making giantkin encounters feel a little less repetitive. In combat, the Chain Brute controls space better than a standard ogre. Chain Smash can stun a target, while Chain Sweep threatens anyone nearby and can knock multiple creatures prone. That makes it a strong frontline disruptor for warbands, hill forts, or raiding parties. In a campaign, an Ogre Chain Brute can serve as a siege bruiser, bodyguard, pit fighter, or trained enforcer for smarter giants. Red Slaad are chaotic aberrations from Limbo, driven by instinct, hunger, and the urge to multiply. They are especially unsettling because their threat continues after the fight. Their injecting claw can implant a supernatural egg in a humanoid, eventually producing a Slaad tadpole that kills the host if the curse is not removed. In combat, 3 claw attacks, a 10-foot reach, magic resistance, and regeneration make them durable brawlers that can pressure the party while spreading that long-term danger. The 2024 version streamlines the old egg infection into a curse with clearer timing and removal. In a campaign, a Red Slaad works well as a chaotic planar invader, outbreak source, or the horror lurking behind a strange illness. Green Slaad are more intelligent, magically capable Slaad created when the chaotic propagation of red or blue Slaad affects spellcasters. This mini is a color variant of the Red Slaad mini, which works well since the creatures are closely related but play very different roles on the table. In combat, the Green Slaad is more about chaotic spellcasting and manipulation. Its Chaos Staff can inflict random conditions, while Fireball, Invisibility, Detect Thoughts, and Shapeshift let it disrupt the party in unpredictable ways. In a campaign, a Green Slaad can serve as a Limbo-born infiltrator, a portal scout, or strange commander directing Red Slaad toward vulnerable worlds. Barlguras are hulking ape-like demons that embody abyssal predatory violence and territorial brutality. They are more cunning than they first appear, using stealth, climbing, jumping, and spells such as Disguise Self, Invisibility, Entangle, and Phantasmal Killer to stalk prey before crashing into melee. That combination makes them excellent hit-and-run monsters. They can appear where the party feels safe, split characters with difficult terrain or illusions, and then use Leap to close distances quickly. In combat, the 2024 version is nastier than the 2014 Barlgura. It has more hit points, gains demonic restoration, and its bite now deals significant psychic damage, making it feel more overtly supernatural. Thrash can also knock enemies prone, helping the Barlgura overwhelm isolated targets. In a campaign, Barlguras work well as jungle-based demons, abyssal hunters, summoned terrors, or brutal enforcers for a stronger fiend. Their habit of decorating territory with trophies and signs of past kills can make their presence felt long before initiative is rolled. A Flind is a demonic Gnoll champion created when Yenogu transforms an especially vicious or foul-smelling Gnoll into the leader of a warband. Unlike ordinary Gnolls, a Flind isn't just a raider or a scavenger. It sets the direction of the pack and drives its followers toward weaker prey. In combat, its aura of bloodthirst makes nearby allies more dangerous by allowing them to rampage after biting, while its 3 magical flail options create varied threats: confusion and forced movement, heavy psychic pain, or temporary paralysis. It can also fall back on a longbow when it needs to. In a campaign, a Flind works well as the terrifying centerpiece of a Gnoll warband or a demon-touched hunting pack. White Abishais are draconic devils created from souls rewarded by Tiamat, serving her interests in the Nine Hells and beyond. Among Abishais, they are the most reckless and direct, fighting with the savage fury associated with a white dragon. In combat, they are dangerous skirmishers. They fly, resist non-magical weapon damage that's not silvered, ignore magical darkness with Devil's Sight, and use Reckless to make their melee attacks more likely to hit. Vicious Reprisal also lets them retaliate when damaged, which happens pretty frequently when you're fighting recklessly, keeping pressure on the party even outside of their own turn. In a campaign, a White Abishai works well as a Shock Trooper, Tiamat Cult Enforcer, Battlefield Raider, or brutal servant of a dragon-themed infernal plot. Death Wolves are undead horrors that are essentially werewolves with necromancy, lunar magic, and illusion. Created from the body of a powerful werewolf, a Death Wolf can't shapeshift, but it retains a scary hybrid form and gains supernatural tricks tied to fear and phantoms. In combat, its bite can curse a target, Phantom Death Wolf creates a psychic terror that punishes frightened victims each turn, and its reactions let it either slash back at attackers or teleport through dim light and darkness. On Krynn, Death Wolves are associated with Lunatari, the Red Moon and god of natural magic. In a campaign, a Death Wolf works well as an evil lunar guardian, a necromancer's champion, or a legendary undead predator. Goblin bosses are the loudest, luckiest, or the most forceful goblins in a band, leading them through intimidation, schemes, and a willingness to sacrifice followers to stay alive. The 2024 version reflects the newer goblin lore. Goblins are now Fey goblinoids, tied to the Feywild's reckless energy rather than simply small humanoids. In combat, the goblin boss is dangerous because it acts like a cowardly tactician. Multi-attack lets it use a scimitar or short bow attack in any combination. Nimble escape makes it mobile, and redirect attack can force an ally to take a hit meant for the boss. In a campaign, it works well as a raid leader, a petty tyrant, or a chaotic mastermind. Bullywug Royals are the largest or cleverest members of their swamp-dwelling little colonies, turning Bullywug arrogance and theatrical authority into battlefield commands. They fit naturally as chiefs, self-proclaimed monarchs, or overconfident nobles surrounded by croaking courtiers and giant toads. In combat, the Royal is more dangerous than a typical Bullywug because it can fight effectively from range or melee, knock enemies prone with its spear, and gain advantage while mounted on a toad. We need some mounted Bullywug minis, WizKids. Croak Decree also gives nearby allies advantage on their next attacks, making a Royal a useful leader for mixed Bullywug encounters. In a campaign, a Bullywug Royal can be a comic but legitimate swamp leader, a rival faction leader, or another froggier petty tyrant guarding something valuable. Sapphire Dragon Wyrmlings are militant gem dragons whose instincts already lean towards strategy and underground warfare. This will probably be a really sought-after mini. It's already over $20 on the aftermarket and rarely in stock. In combat, the Wyrmling is pretty versatile for a CR3. It can fly, climb, burrow through stone, leave tunnels behind, and use debilitating breath to incapacitate enemies with a pulse of thunder. It's also got psionic spellcasting, telepathy, and fear immunity. In a campaign, it works well as a young lair guardian, a proud strategist, or an uneasy ally against Far Realm corruption. Gosh, I wish we had a really good Far Realm-centric adventure in 5e. Phandelver and below just wasn't it. Aaron Yesses, also called Furies, are armored winged devils who hunt Oathbreakers, escaped souls, and enemies of the Nine Hells. They're infernal avengers, with a lowercase a. In combat, they are dangerous mobile elites. Withering Sword delivers strong slashing and necrotic damage. Entangling Rope, and that's quite a rope on this mini, can restrain a target from long range, and Parry makes them harder to bring down in melee. The 2024 version also leans into this duelist and captor identity, replacing the older longbow focus with a magical rope and the necrotic sword. In a campaign, an Aaron Yes can serve as a bounty hunter, an infernal judge, or an agent collecting on a broken pact. Coatls are radiant serpent-like celestials with rainbow wings, deep ties to prophecy, and a role as protectors of divine secrets. They are not usually enemies, but guardians, guides, or agents of fate who may test the party before revealing what they know. In combat, a Coatl combines mobility, strong defenses, and support magic. Shielded Mind protects its thoughts, Bite and Constrict can disable foes, and spells like Bless, Sanctuary, Greater Restoration, and Scrying let it protect allies or shape events from behind the scenes. Its shape change can also make it excellent for hidden in plain sight encounters. And in a campaign, a Coatl can guard an ancient relic, preserve a prophecy, or appear in disguise to keep destiny on course. Devourers are towering and distressing-looking undead horrors created by Orcus, formed from lesser demons transformed into hollow-ribbed vessels of hunger and undeath. They are especially disturbing because they don't simply kill victims. They imprison a dying humanoid inside their ribcage, where they feed on its life and eventually turn the corpse into a new undead servant. In combat, Imprisoned Soul creates a pretty scary rescue problem for the party, while Soul Rend punishes everyone nearby with a burst of necrotic energy. Their strong claw attacks and resistances make them durable frontline threats. In the campaign, a Devourer works well as an Orcus cult champion, a planar undead predator, or yet another source of a spreading, this time undead, outbreak. Eye Drakes are aberrations born when a beholder becomes obsessed with a dragon rival, its dreams warping that fixation into a winged, draconic reflection of itself. This is one of those monsters that I really enjoy because of that origin lore. And the Eye Drake really feels like a fusion of a dragon and a beholder. It flies, it hoards treasure, it bites, and it uses its eye rays that echo both draconic breath weapons and classic beholder magic. In combat, it is an unpredictable and dangerous threat, with anti-magic breath disrupting spellcasters in a cone, while its eye rays can freeze, incapacitate, repel, burn, paralyze, or just outright kill weakened targets. In a campaign, an Eye Drake works well as a strange lair guardian, a beholder's accidental offspring, or the living consequence of an obsessive magical rivalry. Young lunar dragons, also called moon or phase dragons, are capricious, xenophobic little buggers that make their lairs inside remote moons, asteroids, or hollowed stone bodies in wild space. They are dangerous territorial predators, especially because they can burrow through solid rock and leave tunnels behind, turning their lairs into confusing three-dimensional battlefields. In combat, the dragon combines classic draconic pressure with unusual mobility. Its cold breath can slow a group of enemies, while phase lets it become partially incorporeal and resist weapon damage as it shifts into a spectral state. That makes it harder to pin down than a typical young dragon. In a campaign, a young lunar dragon works well as a strange wild space tyrant, a guardian of stolen spelljamming relics, or just an eerie moon-haunting threat. This little one isn't quite as expensive or hard to find as our Sapphire Dragon earlier. He's only about $12, and in a pinch you can use him as a young white dragon as well. I have been waiting for a full collection of Modron minis since the moment I started collecting minis, and we're finally getting a little bit closer. This is the capstone mini for the set, and my personal favorite. A high-ranking, high-arc Modron that immediately recalls Mechanus, and Cosmic Order, and the strange beauty of that lawful design. Septons serve as auditors of base Modrons, making them excellent story tools for adventures involving planar bureaucracy, cosmic law, or malfunctioning orders rippling down through the chain of command. In combat, the Septon is a serious controller, able to grapple multiple creatures with its tentacles, stun groups with lightning network, and support itself with utility spellcasting such as Detect Magic, Dispel Magic, Sending, and Plane Shift. As far as WizKiz Modrons goes, I believe we do not have minis for the Octon, Nonaton, Decaton, Hexton, Quinton, Quatron, Tertian, Secundus, or Primus. I don't even know if we have any official art of Primus from 5e. I would love to see a Primus mini in Adventure though. A lot of these minis naturally form little encounter groups. The Gnoll Yinogu pieces are probably the clearest example, with the Maw Demon, Gnoll Witherling, Rutterkin, Bulezau, and Flint all working together for demonic warbands. The Jackal and Jackalwere pair nicely, the Bullywug Knight and the Bullywug Royal help build out your Swamp faction, the Red and Green Slaad give you a Limbo Outbreak in 2 different flavors, and the Drow Mage of Loth and the Yochlol make a usable Loth-centered encounter group. Even the 2 Griffins and the 2 Equinal Guardinals give you some visual variety for creatures that you might actually want multiples of. This set is also surprisingly good for planar campaigns. Planescape is represented strongly with the Septon Modron, the Equinal Guardinal, Eaters of Knowledge, and several creatures that feel right at home in the Outlands, Mechanus, or the broader multiverse. Spelljammer gets some nice support here too, with the Space Eel and the Young Lunar Dragon, and the Neogi all feel very easy to drop into Wild Space or a planar Raider story. For more conventional fantasy campaigns, you still got a couple of good useful staples here. You got the goblins, the zombies, snakes, satyrs, dryads, hellhounds, griffins, gorgons, and ogres. So even though the set gets weird, it's not only for niche planar adventures, though you might end up with some minis that are a little bit tougher to slot into more traditional campaigns. But hopefully, the information in this video can help you find ways to use all of them. Adventure-wise, the set pulls from a pretty wide variety of 5e sources. You got pieces that fit in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Ghost of Saltmarsh, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, Spelljammer, Planescape, and Vecna Eve of Ruin. The biggest strength here is encounter building. We don't get PC or generic NPC minis here, but if you are a DM who likes having the right monster on hand, especially for fiends, fae, aberration, planar creatures, and unusually high impact threats, there's kind of a lot here. I also appreciate that the set includes some monsters that have been underserved in miniature form, like the Ogre variants, the Modrons, the Gem Dragons, the Gardinals, the Neogi, and the weird Spelljammer creatures. It's a set with a lot of personality, and for DMs who run planar, Underdark, Feywild, Demonic, or monster-heavy campaigns, it offers a pretty strong little toolbox to work from. If you're running a more standard campaign, this set is going to be a little bit more hit or miss for you probably, but man, I love weird, so this set works for me. Monster Menagerie Revisited is available now. You can get a booster box, which has 3 mediums or smalls and a large for about 19 bucks. A brick, which has 10 booster boxes, is about 170 bucks. And you can get a full case, which includes 4 bricks, for 650 bucks or thereabouts. That should get you 1 of each mini, with the possible exception of the Invisible Eater of Knowledge. I'm not sure exactly how rare that one is. Most of these minis are also available on the aftermarket if there are just a couple that you want, but let me know what you think about them in the comment section down below, and which one is your favorite. And now for the winner of our giveaway. Drum roll, please. The winner is Dog Boy Mark. Since you picked a Gnoll, I kind of thought about just rerunning it, but I can't do that to you. So drop me an email at theo@gallantgoblin.com to claim your prize. And don't forget to check out the Witchy Summer Sale at Hit Point Press to get yourself some nice animated reference cards. If you've never used these at your table, I can promise you that they're always a hit. I don't run in-person games without at least using the deck of animated conditions, but I often use a lot more than that. You can use my link down below so they know I sent you, which keeps me on the air. Thank you for watching all the way to the end here. I really appreciate it. I hope you are enjoying your summer so far. But for now, please stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I'll see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.